Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone. My name is Lauren Barva. I am the Policy and Outreach Manager for the Watershed Restoration Grants Branch at the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. With me today, I have my colleague Randy Adair, who is the Environmental Program Manager for Prop 1 and Prop 68. Before we get started, I have a few housekeeping items to go over. Please make sure you're muted and turn off your video to save bandwidth unless speaking. Please hold all questions until the end. We have a question and comment section. And then this workshop is being recorded and will be made available on our website along with the presentation. And I'll send out a link once it's posted. Thank you all for joining this pre-application workshop for the 2021 North Coast Coho Recovery Proposal Solicitation Notice. During today's workshop, we will review the PSN and grant guidelines, provide an overview of the pre-application process, get an overview of WEBGRANTS, provide a timeline for the solicitation, and then open it up for questions. As some of you might know, this North Coast Coho Recovery PSN is part of CDFW's Cutting the Green Tape initiative and will pilot the new granting and permitting efficiencies developed over this past year as part of Cutting the Green Tape. A quick background on Cutting the Green Tape. As a name, was branded by their Natural Resources Agency and Secretary Crowfoot's kickoff meetings in late 2019. The goals of Cutting the Green Tape are to increase the pace and scale of environmental restoration, improve granting efficiencies, and coordinate environmental permitting. CDFW's Watershed Restoration Grants Branch partnered with the North Coast Salmon Project when designing this solicitation. So now I will go over some specifics of the solicitation. So this PSN is funded under the Prop 1 Watershed Restoration Grant Program, which means the eligibility and other requirements within Prop 1 grant guidelines will apply. The purpose of the grant guidelines are to establish processes, procedures, and criteria CDFW will use to administer the grant program. These guidelines were recently updated, so all the applicants should read the guidelines in addition to the PSN notice for full context and understanding of the grant program, purpose, and requirements. The PSN document is a separate document from the guidelines and will provide more of a detailed information regarding such things as to how to apply, the specific priority, and evaluation criteria. This is mainly the stuff that changes from one solicitation to another. Since the solicitation is piloting new granting and permitting efficiencies, it's important to read through the PSN since quite a few things have changed. Now, compared to our previous Prop 1 grant rounds, this solicitation includes a multi-phase application process, which started with the release of our call for concepts back in June. We're on the second phase, which is the pre-application. All applicants are required to submit a pre-application in order to be eligible for submittal of a full application. The pre-application is a short online form composed of mainly checklists and short narrative fields. It will be used to determine whether a proposal meets the eligibility criteria and the scope of this solicitation. I will provide some additional information on the pre-application in the next slide, but once the pre-application phase is complete, applicants will be invited back to submit a full application. And we'll discuss timeline later, but we anticipate the full application phase will be released in mid-October, and this will include longer narrative fields and require attachments such as an explanation of how the proposal addresses the solicitation, a summary of the project goals, objectives, and performance measures, a detailed Budget and scope will need to be provided, as well as a complete table of deliverables and timelines. This is just a few items. There are more outlined within the PSN. So, what can you expect from the pre-application? So this pre-application is new and is part of a process improvement that we are piloting. As mentioned earlier, it will be used to determine whether the proposal meets the eligibility criteria and scope of the solicitation. Additionally, CDFW will also identify any preliminary concerns with administrative requirements and schedule. We hope this step will help our staff identify any red flags, issues early in the process and give the applicant a chance to make revisions within the full application. We want to avoid situations where good projects are deemed ineligible due to an administrative issue. And on the flip side, we also want to let applicants know if the project does not meet the eligibility criteria early on. So within 30 days of submitting your pre-application, one of three things will happen. So the first one is CDFW will not invite the applicant back to submit a full application because the proposal did not meet the eligibility under the solicitation. Or two, CDFW will request further information or clarification about the proposed project before it decides whether to invite the applicant to submit a full application. This step is where we'll give the applicant the ability to make revisions to their application. And then the last one is CDFW will invite the applicant to submit a full application. Now, for the specifics of this PSN, they are similar to previous years. These are the entities that are eligible to apply under the solicitation: public agencies, state and local, nonprofit organizations, federally recognized Indian tribes, and state Indian tribes listed on the Native American Heritage Commission's California Tribal Consultation List. The eligible project categories for this PSN are planning, which planning projects support necessary activities that lead to future on-the-ground implementation projects, including environmental review, design, and project development. Implementation projects, which are construction projects, new or enhance existing facilities, or restore and enhance habitat. Design plans for implementation projects must be at a 65% level or higher. Then the last one is acquisitions. These consist of the acquisition of property or water right, or an easement that protects water and fish and wildlife habitat as a primary objective. So for this solicitation, all projects must protect, restore, or enhance coho salmon habitat in the eligible North Coast watersheds to aid in the recovery and conservation of coho salmon. Specifically, we're looking at projects that are protected and restoration activities indicated as high importance in an adopted coho recovery strategy, such as CDFW's recovery strategy for coho salmon, priority action coho team report, the South Fork eel sharp report, as well as others listed within the PSN. And now I'm going to turn it over to Randy to talk about the geographic focus and permitting options for this PSN.
Great, thanks, Lauren. So unlike previous solicitations, the geographic focus for this PSN is limited to certain watersheds. Those are watersheds that provide high importance for coho salmon recovery with significant restoration efforts and monitoring underway. Also where evaluation and analysis of CDFW programs that's pertinent to coho salmon recovery is currently concentrated. And also where there is high community involvement, where development of priority recommendations for more effective targeted restoration is underway, like the SHARP effort that Lauren just described. So the target watersheds for this solicitation are within the Eel River watershed, the South Fork Eel, the Lower Eel River and its tributaries. On the Mendocino coast, that it includes 10 Mile River, Noyo, Navarro River, Garcia River, and the Pudding Creek watershed, which includes also the main stream and all tributaries. In the Russian River, it includes Mill Creek, Green Valley Creek, the Dutchville Creek watershed, and Willow Creek watershed. And just a note on the Russian that Mill Creek and Green Valley correspond to the HUCs, HUC 12s, but Dutchville and Willow Creek don't correspond exactly to those HUCs. So just take a look at the map, and if you have any questions about geographic eligibility in those watersheds, let us know. Oh, and also on the Russian, the main stem of the Russian River is not included in the solicitation. And then last but not least, Lagunitas Creek is the southernmost watershed in the solicitation. Okay, switching gears to talk about permitting. So this PSN outlines several accelerated and programmatic permitting options in section 7 of the PSN document, which includes some new options from CDFW. So first of all is the Habitat Restoration and Enhancement Act. That's actually something that's been around for a while that covers small restoration projects, projects that have a maximum project size of 5 acres or cumulative 500 linear feet. Those are projects that are eligible for the state board's 401 cert for small habitat restoration projects. And that provides CISA coverage, LSA coverage, and CEQA. We also have a couple of new permitting options for this that we're rolling out at this point. One is the restoration management permit. It covers larger restoration projects and combines 3 take authorizations into a single streamlined permit. So that's CISA listed species, fully protected species, which currently there aren't a lot of take mechanisms for those, and also species of special concern and common species, which typically are covered under scientific collection permits. We also have a new process for issuing CISA consistency determinations for restoration projects that are covered under a federal programmatic BO or even project-specific federal BOs. Some other permitting pathways we wanted to bring your attention to. For federal permitting, we're working with federal partners to incorporate the projects under this solicitation into the Regional General Permit number 12, the RGBP 12, which is essentially the same permit that covers the Fisheries Restoration Grant Program project. So some of you might be familiar with that. There are also several other programmatic restoration BOs that are outlined in the PSN. For Clean Water Act 401 certification, as previously mentioned, there's the Small Habitat Restoration Projects 401 cert. The State Board is also working on another 401 cert that's for it's larger restoration projects. That order is in progress. We're not sure about the timing of when that will be finalized. So for all permitting pathways, please review the eligibility requirements carefully and make sure you're accounting for costs associated with permit compliance, including pre and post project and construction monitoring in your application budget and scope of work. And additionally, if you're not sure if your project is eligible or if it's unclear whether a permitting pathway, one of these newer permitting pathways that have been indicated as in progress will be available for use. Estimate costs for preparing individual permits in your budget, indicating that the permitting pathway that you utilize may differ. It's better to go with something that you know is going to work, that's already in place, the individual permits, rather than assuming that you're going to get coverage under something that is in progress and then have that not be available when the awards are done, are issued. For CEQA, no, okay, thank you. In the past, we've had stakeholders express concern about CEQA and how it affects the project trajectory. Because issuance of a grant is considered a project approval and a discretionary decision, CDFW has to comply with CEQA when issuing awards for implementation projects. So that means that CEQA must be complete at the time of award. So this is a requirement of CEQA itself, not a CDFW policy. To demonstrate CEQA coverage for an implementation project, CEQA must be complete at the time of award. So that means the project approval, that the project, you must either demonstrate this project qualifies for a statutory or categorical CEQA exemption, or that a state or local agency will file a notice of determination with the Office of Planning and Research. However, this PSN adds some flexibility to defer award announcements for projects that are pursuing CEQA completion but won't be done prior to the primary award date. So if you have a project that isn't going to meet that CEQA deadline, let us know that you're working actively on it, and there's a chance that we could issue awards at a later date. If you haven't started CEQA and you want to have those costs covered under your grant award, please consider applying as a planning project rather than as an implementation project. And CEQA strategies are something we are going to continue to work on for future solicitations. So we have made some progress, but we're not completely there. So to go along with the statewide Restoration 401 cert, the State Board is preparing a draft programmatic EIR. The programmatic EIR will allow other state and local agencies to tier off of their primary document, the PEIR. It's basically, it's like a programmatic document that you would go to the local lead agency, and they would look at that for consistency with the measures that are outlined in that document. And here's the website if you are interested and would like to look at what it contains on your own time. Here's the link in the chat. So because this document is still under development and CDFW doesn't have control over timing, it's possible it may not be available in time for the solicitation. If you're hoping to rely on this document, we recommend, like as for permitting, to include the cost for preparing an individual CEQA document in your application, as well as incorporating that into the scope and the schedule. So, you know, it's better to slightly overestimate costs with respect to CEQA and permitting. If you're not sure what mechanism you're going to be using, it's easier for us to make adjustments down than to raise the amount of the award. So we will be adjusting grant awards once the CEQA compliance strategy is finalized and the estimated costs are confirmed. So thank you, Lauren. That's it for CEQA.
Awesome. Thanks, Randy. So now that we provided an overview of the solicitation, let's talk about how to apply. So all pre-application proposals must be electronically submitted through CDFW's WEBGRANTS application program. The pre-application proposals must be received by 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on September 30th, 2021. A few important items about WEBGRANTS for user accounts. You cannot apply to the PSN without an active WEBGRANTS user account. Multiple users can work on the same application but must have their own user account. Returning applicants, you don't have to re-register. Use your existing user ID and password. If you've changed organizations, please contact the WEBGRANTS help desk to affiliate your account with a different organization. And then if you're new to WEBGRANTS, please register and create an account. If you are new, this is where you will click to register. Within the registration form, all the fields marked with an asterisk are required. Please do not provide any personal contact information. Use your business contact information only. And at this stage, the tax ID is not necessary, so enter NA. But if you have the tax ID, please fill that in. So continuing with the registration, the organization you are linked to affects your application. This is how CDFW determines eligibility. So if you need to make changes, please reach out. You must be affiliated with an organization. If you are affiliated with more than one organization, register under one and contact the WEBGRANTS help desk to link your additional organizations to your account. Third-party users, such as consultants, should be affiliated with the applicant organization. A WEBGRANTS admin must approve the registration before the user may log in and start the application. When confirming your registration, the user will receive up to 3 confirmation emails. So you'll get the confirm receipt, the approve or deny user registration, and then your password. On average, the registration approval for new users takes about 1 business day. Now for the pre-application process. So once you log in, you will select funding opportunities. Select the 2021 CGT Cutting the Green Tape solicitation. Applicants will have 2 options for starting an application. The only one that you can select for this pre-application is start a new application. Since this is a new application process and we are piloting this pre-application and full application phases, you are unable to copy over previous applications since we did reformat both applications, the pre and full. Once you select start a new application, this page will automatically open. This page must be filled out and saved before the rest of the application can be completed. The primary contact is the only user that can update the general information section. Please make sure to keep the project title brief. The authorized official is an authorized representative of the applicant organization and must be affiliated with the applicant organization. For organizations, you can only select organizations that your account is linked to, and make sure you save this page before moving on. The applicant main menu. All application forms are listed in the application main menu. Use this as your checklist for completing the pre-application. All forms must be complete in order for you to submit. Now, users do have the ability to add additional contacts as an application by indicating them as an additional grantee contact. This can only be done by the primary contact and the person must be affiliated with the same organization. Add additional grantee contacts can complete all of the application forms except for the general information form. Consultant submitting an application for the applicant organization must be associated with the applicant organization. So this is where if you have any issues, please reach out to the WEBGRANTS help desk. And this is how you can add an additional contact. You go through the general information form, select edit, and then you will select the additional grantee contacts and select save at the top of the screen. And then once you select save, the contacts will be added to the additional contact section. And then from there, click on go to the application forms. As mentioned earlier, this Pre-application form is different from our previous Prop 1 grant rounds. So this one is mainly consists of multiple choice and short narrative fields. For the general information section, basic information about the applicant, project type, project cost, and location is what we require. For the project summary, the project description and relationship to other projects, consistency with recovery strategies and other plans, and information. This information is needed to establish eligibility. So the project location map, the map of the project location, this is the only required pre-application attachment. So when you get down to the end and you see the attachment section, you only need to submit the project location map, and that's to confirm that your project is within the boundaries. Next, permitting. Indicate whether the project has or is pursuing the appropriate permits and CEQA coverage, and allow CDFW to assess these issues in context of the overall schedule. So if you have any issues that Randy mentioned before, just try to indicate those and we will work with you to the best of our ability. Engineering. Indicate where the project is at in the designs. Timeline, here's where we want to see a summary of your key project milestones. Land tenure, indicate landowner involvement and whether access has been obtained. And then the additional questions we have is whether the project involves water rights or will be used as mitigation. All of these sections are available for you to preview within the Word version of the pre-application, which I'll link at the end of the presentation. So once you fill out all the forms, and if you want to review the entire pre-application, you can click on each application form individually to view them, or you can also click on application details to review all the forms on one page. Once you do that, if you want to print or save a copy of your pre-application, click on Print at the top of the page and then right-click and select Print and Save. Please do not click on Print to PDF. Once you have saved or printed the document, click Go to Application Forms to return to the application main menu. Before you submit the pre-application, make sure to review the application, make sure that the application forms are marked as complete, and then once that is done, then you can select Submit. Please note that you cannot change your pre-application after it's been submitted. When you move on, you will be able to edit information, but that's only once you get to the full application. So a few WEBGRANTS recommendations: save your progress often, don't let the program time out, start your pre-application early, use the WEBGRANTS back button to navigate, work offline with the Word version of the pre-application before completing the version of WEBGRANTS. When uploading attachments, please include your application number. Contact the CDFW WEBGRANTS Help Desk with any WEBGRANTS questions or issues. So here are links to all of the resources for the PSN. As I mentioned, I will post this on the CDFW website so you can have access to all these links. They are currently available on our Prop 1 Grant Program website right now. And then tips for the pre-application proposal. Make sure you read the solicitation, grant guidelines, and application instructions carefully. If you have questions, just ask. Make sure you clearly address the criteria outlined in the solicitation. Make a clear, concise connection between your project and the solicitation priority. Make a direct connection to the recovery plans. The CDFW recovery strategy for Coho, the NOAA Fisheries Recovery Plan, the SHARP document, the Priority Action Coho Team report. we want to see all those connections. Here's the tentative schedule for the solicitation. So we released the PSN on August 30th. Pre-applications are due through WEBGRANTS on September 30th. We anticipate releasing the full application mid-October, and the full application proposals will be due December 3rd. The proposal evaluation will be in December, and then the CDFW director approval award announcements will be no sooner than January 2022. We anticipate to execute grant agreements no sooner than March 2022. The project start date will depend upon the grant agreement execution. So work cannot be done or be reimbursed until an executed grant agreement is in place. All work must be completed by January 1st, 2025 for UC and CSUs, and March 15th, 2025 for all other projects. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. The WEBGRANTS Help Desk is staffed by CDFW staff, and their business hours are Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 4. Any solicitation questions can be directed to our watershed grants email. And now I'm going to open it up for questions. If you have any questions or comments, submit your question through the chat or raise your hand.
We have one comment or one question in the chat right now. Says, based on previous experience, we have concerns that the 500 character limit is not sufficient to respond to the field description of consistency with an implementation of the California Water Action Plan, SWAP, and other plans within the strategies or recovery plans section on WEBGRANTS, particularly when the proposed project is referenced in multiple plans and addresses multiple benefits recovery tasks. Can you provide advice about how best to provide this information within the character limit? For example, is providing URL to the plan absolutely necessary?
If you run out of space, you don't have to provide the URL. We just want to try to keep it concise, and then you'll have an opportunity to explain everything in the full proposal. We'll open it up for additional character count. I hope that helps.
Yeah. All right, we have, looks like 3 questions in one. First question, will you accept CCC forms that were completed for a different proposal but covered the same proposal content?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm going to have to look into that specific question and whether or not you need to submit a new CC form or if we can use that one. I will make a note of that within the FAQ document.
Second question of this 3-parter is, will you accept letters of support that were addressed to a different agency but cover the same proposal content, same concept?
The letters of support should be addressed to the agency that is applying.
Yeah. And are all consultations still, are consultations still allowed before the pre-app is due?
No, so our consultation period has ended. To keep the competitive nature of our solicitation, CDFW can answer questions about the solicitation. We can't answer specific questions about your project. However, if we do see some red flags, we will reach out to those projects for clarification. But we can't give consultations like we did last month.
Another question, detailed budgets are not required with the pre-application, correct? In the full proposal, will applicants be held to the exact overall project cost, CDFW request amount listed in the pre-app?
So within the pre-application, we ask for an estimated amount. Once we get to the full application, that's where you will provide a detailed budget.
Yeah, so you can revise it at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Feel free to raise your hand too. Oh, here we go. just to confirm, the total amount requested can vary between the pre and full proposal. Correct.
Correct.
Is this presentation available online so others can see and hear it?
It will be. I'm hoping to have it up by Friday. Any other? If you do have any other questions, you can email our watershed grants mailbox and we will answer them.
All right, nothing else coming in on the chat, it doesn't look like. Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us. If you have any questions, like Lauren says, please feel free to email us.